from that to that. Look at that crankshaft and see if we got a stroker here. It's another day at Freeman's garage working on the 1956 Chevy, and we're gonna get some work done on our mystery engine here in preparation to drop the power plant into the Tri-5. We're gonna clean the rust off of the cylinder walls, and we're gonna do gaskets and seals. We got a full set of gaskets and seals here for a 1987 through 1995 Chevy 350. We're not gonna use every single piece that's in here, but we're definitely doing head gaskets. This is a good thing. We're gonna make some progress here today. It's gonna be good. And I would like to paint the engine as well, but we might not be able to get that into this video here because we're in a bit of a cold spell actually, and it's a little too chilly for the paintage, if you know what I meanage. But we'll see if it warms up enough. Since the last time we played with this engine, I received some new information from the previous owner, and we might be in for a big surprise towards the end of the video. Let's just get to work first here, and then as we go along, I'll start spilling the beans on the new info. And let's just say, well, I'll just give you a little hint. We know that this 350 has been overboard, so we know there's a little bit more than 350 cubic inches, but there's a very good chance that we've got, about either 33 more cubic inches than 350, or possibly 50 cubic inches more than 350. We'll find out. If you haven't seen the video where we cracked this engine open for the very first time, I suggest watching that video next after you finish watching this one. It's linked in the video description, and it'll pop up on the screen at the end of this video, so you can just simply tap or click on it. It'll take you right there. That'll fill you in on all the details about why this engine is a mystery and how it ended up here at Freeman's garage. We'll just put the stock cast intake on the floor. I don't think this plastic table is going to hold the intake and the cylinder heads. I could not get my toolbox with the sturdy wood top over here because, well, we're kind of boxed in with autos, which is a good thing. That's a good problem to have. One can never have enough automobiles. It just can't happen. This engine sat on the floor in a garage for 15 to 20 years, and if I remember right from the previous video with this engine, half of our cylinders, 4 out of 8, have surface rust on the walls. That's what it looks like right there, and there's gorgeous cross-hatching underneath. And in between videos when you weren't looking, I snuck in here and I hit this up right here, and then this spot here, just a couple test patches, just WD-40 and a blue shop towel. Alright, let's get cracking on it. One side at a time, nice and simple. During the 15 to 20 years that this engine sat, it does not sound like it was rotated at all. It just went onto an engine stand and was wheeled into the corner of doom where engines never return. And in the previous video with this engine, when we had the oil pan off, when we were looking up into the cylinders from underneath, we did not see any surface rust. So I'm 99.9% certain that the rust you can see is all there is, because these pistons haven't moved for 15 to 20 years. They've been sitting just like this. So let's clean the rust out that we can see, which means we won't be touching this cylinder yet because we can't see anything. And then we'll take this cylinder head off and we'll repeat the same thing. And then we'll rotate the engine just a little bit, just to get the pistons to move a little bit, and so we can see a little bit more cylinder wall and see if there's any more rust. And we'll just slowly do that until we have rotated the engine all the way around. And we'll make sure we lubricate it, the cylinder walls. We won't do it dry. And we'll make sure that we get all the rust off the cylinder walls. And then what we'll do is clean the top of the pistons, and we'll clean the old head gasket off of the deck. Get that all cleaned up. And we'll clean off our China walls. Even though we're not going to need the China walls today, because we don't even know which intake we want to run yet, but it's not going to be the stalker that we set down on the floor. But just for OCD's sake, I just want the entire top of the engine clean. Just do it all in one shot. And then we'll move on to the next thing. Look at how beautiful that cylinder wall cleaned up that fast. There's the beautiful cross hatching. There's no pitting or grooves or scratches or anything. So that surface rust, it's nothing to worry about. If we found pitting underneath it, blemish defects like that, then we would, have to ramp things up a little bit, escalation of force. But it went from that to that, just with the WD-40 and the blue rag. Rolling up the sleeves for this one. Don't want to ruin my $6.99 hardware store shirt. Oh my gosh, that's friggin' fan-damn-tastic. I keep spraying WD-40 all over the car. I don't want to contaminate the paint job. Might as well wipe the top of this piston off a little bit right now. Just because it's staring at me right in the face, A green Scotch-Brite pad would work a lot better, but no, we're not rebuilding this, and as soon as you fire it up again, it's dirty again. That's how we're looking at the Memento. Let's take the other cylinder head off and keep rocking and rolling. Even less surface rust over here on this side than I thought I remembered. This is, well, there's no surface rust in this cylinder at all. This one has surface rust. This one, since the piston's at the top and we saw nothing from below, there probably is 0 in here. And there's no surface rust here, but we'll clean this rust out, still wipe these out, and wipe the top of the pistons off. And then just that way, and we'll make sure there's no junk in between the piston and the cylinder wall. We'll do all that so that when we rotate it here in just a minute, we don't have any gunk that could scrape or scratch the cylinder walls, which anything that might get down in here, I highly doubt would be harmful, because it's probably just little carbon-y pieces. But it goes without saying, we don't want anything in there at all, if we can help it. This looks really good. Both sides are fantastic. That took less than 5 minutes. Let's get our pry bar wedged into our flywheel bolts. All right, our pry bar is wedged into our flywheel bolts. Now, let's see if we can rotate this Chevy V8. Yes, I did mean to rhyme that time. For the first time in 15 to 20 years, I give you 99.9% that it's not locked up in any form or fashion. But how easy or difficult it is to rotate this, let's find out right now. Well, that was easy, it already moved. Okay, we're moving. It sounds a little scrapey. And that scrapiness is from the little kind of a light rusty ring from that surface rust. Right there, that's what I'm talking about. That little, just kind of a light rusty, crusty little edge there. That was on this side of the engine. Coming over to this side here, you can see a little bit of that there too. This is why I said we were going to rotate it a little bit at a time so that we could clean this stuff out as we go and we don't just grind it up and down the cylinder walls. I was just thinking about that swap meet engine that we bought to put into the 67 Chevy C10 pickup. Remember we bought that engine at a swap meet and then brought it in here to the garage and the engine was full of rainwater? Well, that truck's parked out there and that engine still runs just fine. And we didn't even take the cylinder head off. We just drained the water. We don't even know how much rust was on those cylinder walls. And that thing's just fine. But of course we don't want that, you know, that's not good, that's not ideal. So let's just take our time here, just slowly rotate, wipe, lubricate, and keep these cylinders in good condition. Okay, rotating a little bit more. Okay, let's stop right there. I do not like the way that felt. Alrighty, we are at the point where I have rotated it completely a handful of times and have been wiping and cleaning. There hasn't been much at all to wipe. This has been the worst cylinder, which I think we just need to wipe. Probably wipe. Oh, I kind of twisted my tongue there. I think just wipe and rotate it just a couple more times here, and that's going to be good. I think it's funny that when we first started rotating this, I was a little on edge over what I was thinking I was feeling or hearing. And I think what's going on is this is a fairly fresh engine, and for the past, I don't know how many years, 99% of what I work on is worn out and sloppy beyond belief. So it's been long enough since I've had something fresh and tight, you know. Not used to it. But that's all changed now. I've turned over a new leaf. Alright, so I'm about done wiping this out again, and then I'll rotate it a couple more times and move on to the next thing. I'm just going to go ahead and spill the beans on the possible surprise coming towards the end of the video. We're going to look at the crankshaft and figure out exactly what crankshaft it is, and or measure the stroke, because This engine could be a stroker. It could be a 383. It could be a 400 as well. That's what we're gonna find out. There's still something else cool about this engine I want to tell you, but I'll tell you that in a little bit here. Right now I just want to keep cracking on this and getting work done. I gotta say, things are going really well. This rotates like butter. I'm loving it. And now we're on to the next phase. We need to clean all the old head gasket material off now. So that's going to require a razor blade. And I'm going to try not to get the material down in the holes here that go into our water jacket. I'm going to clean the china walls as well. But yeah, this is probably going to take me, well, let me see here. See, in my head, I was first thinking, oh, I could clean that up in 15 minutes. But now that I put a razor blade on it and see what we're working with, I'd say this is probably going to take me an hour. So don't worry, you're not going to miss much. I'm just going to do this over and over and over for an hour-ish. While I'm doing this, I will think about what we're going to do next. Oh, that's a nice chunk. Well, it's a few hours later. Things are taking longer than I thought they would. Surprise, surprise. I just completely didn't even think about the fact that I was going to have to clean old sealant out of the head bolts, and there's 17 head bolts on each side. So it was wire wheel, thread chaser, razor blade, and I just had a very, very scary moment here. We are at the point where we just need to do just a final wipe down, final decrease and wipe down on our surfaces here, and then we can open up our gasket set and lay our new head gaskets down, set our cylinder heads on, put our ARP hardware in, and torque the 65 foot-pounds. But check this out. This just happened. I chased the threads in all the bolt holes for our head bolts, and just a minute ago, I noticed there was just a little piece of debris, old piece of gasket or something that was in this one. So I thought, oh, well, I must have missed that one. So I go to chase the threads, and something wasn't quite right. So I immediately backed out, and then I grabbed one of the head bolts, and I put it in here. And when it would grab the first thread, the bolt would move, the head of the bolt would move over this way. I thought, uh-oh. So I took it out, made sure the threads were clean. I put it back in, and when it would grab the first thread, it would kick the bolt over this way. Okay, so 50% panicking. I put the ratchet on here, and I just gently start to tighten it to see if it'll straighten itself out. And immediately, I know it's not going to. You could just feel it. So I back out. I'm about to go in full freak out mode here, but I put the bolt back in, and I kind of turned it so it kind of halfway was grabbing into that first thread and just starting to kick over this way. And then I gently just tapped the bolt straight with a hammer, with a ball peen hammer, just gently, very lightly, until it was straight. And then I put the ratchet on, and it's going in just fine, just like it's supposed to. So it was just a very first thread, something was a little goofy with it, but since it was just that very first one, I feel like everything is fine here. We're not going to have to we're not going to have to deal with a bunch of craziness or start thinking maybe we ruined the block. Everything is fine. All right, final wipe down, and then let's get our cylinder heads on and torque them down. The final wipe down. Alrighty, it's time to put the first cylinder head on. So it's time to open this and find out that it is the wrong head gasket in here. Should be correct though. Should be. For the kids, always cut away from yourself. Oh, you know what? I'm an idiot. I'm sitting here looking at these cork valve cover gaskets and thinking, that's not what I wanted. And then I'm looking at the 4-piece oil pan gasket and thinking, that's not right. And then, and then I realize, oh yeah. PT2. This is for the pre-87 Chevy 350. I grabbed the wrong box off of the toolbox over there. 260 TAC 1269er. These gasket sets are linked in the video description. Oh yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. 1-piece oil pan gasket, 1-piece rear main seal. That's a seal for our timing cover. Ah, there's the valve cover gaskets I wanted. That's what you're supposed to get for the 87 to 95, which I really liked that about the 87 to 95. This style of valve cover gasket. As much as I love putting cylinder heads on and doing head gaskets and this kind of stuff, I'm always a little bit paranoid about, oh, was there a little piece of grease somewhere that I missed that ended up in between the cylinder head and the gasket somehow when I was banging the cylinder head around, getting it into place. The cylinder head bolts go into the water jacket, so we have to put a sealant on the thread to avoid cross-contamination / catastrophic failure. And my weapon of choice right now is this Loctite product here, linked in the description. And then we'll also, so that'll go in the threads, and then we'll put just a little bit of oil underneath the head of the bolt to help with not binding while we go for our torque values. We're going to torque our head bolts following a specific pattern around the cylinder head, and we're going to go 25 foot-pounds all the way around, 45 foot-pounds, and then we'll finish it at 65 foot-pounds. If we don't do this in a pattern that spreads the head gasket out evenly as it squishes down, we're just asking for trouble. We'll start with the bolt right in the middle. And then the second one is this one right here. Okay, it's been a long time since I've rock and rolled with the V8. I've been in straight Sealant for a long time. Alright, the third bolt, how I remember it, is the fourth one over. Five should be right here. Over to 2 and down is the sixth one we're going to do. Okay, that's 10, which means 7 more to go. So let's get number 11 here. And then 12 is going to be right here. You know, my old man used to run a dirt track car. Street stocks. Those were the mega V8 days of my childhood. I was 12, 13 years old on a hillbilly pit crew. No money, but we raced hard. Those were the days. I'm going to stop talking now though, because I don't want to forget where I was at here in this order. But that's 17. We got to do it 2 more times. So let's go to 45. I guess, you know, you could do 35 foot-pounds next. I don't know. Everybody says something different. Okay, we're at 45. So now we start over at 1. Okay, now we're getting into a little more torquage here. Okay, now I'm going to stop talking and get through this. This is bolt 17 on 35 foot-pounds. This is not a how-to video. I just wanted to tell you that when I'm using the torque wrench, I'm making sure that I'm pulling on it, or that I'm turning it nice and level. I'm not pushing down or pulling up or doing anything at an angle. Alright, let's go to 65 foot-pounds. Okay, there's 60, and there it is, 65. Our final torque value. Okay, number 1. Let's see how this feels. Okay, now number 2. And I'm not pushing with my hand on here. I just kind of have it here just to help the I don't want the torque wrench to fly off slip off the bolt. Alright, here's number 4. This is our final torque value. This is what's gonna keep the cylinder head from flying off the engine block when we're making compression. And we got all those little explosions going on in our cylinders, making that horsepower. as we transition from this 6th bolt here to our 7th bolt, I'm going to stop talking again because this is the torque value I really don't want to get lost on. And as we land the plane on bolt 17, this is where we start to get paranoid. Did we forget one? Did we go in the wrong order? Did we leave a Slim Jim wrapper in one of the cylinders? But the thing is you can't second guess yourself unless you're gonna take the cylinder head back off. So life is all about choices, isn't it? I'm going back down to 25 foot-pounds, and I'm going to repeat the exact same thing on this side with these cylinder head bolts. You know, that's actually just about it with that engine, because the main goal was to get those cylinders cleaned up, or to find out if they would even clean up, or if we're going to have to take the whole thing apart and hone the cylinders and take it to that level. So that was the main goal, which was accomplished. And getting the cylinder heads on, I wanted to get that done. So we got the heads on with brand new gaskets, and we don't even have the intake that we want to run because we haven't made our mind up on that yet. That's a truck oil pan. We're going to need a car oil pan, and spending some more time now with this engine and looking at it, you know, not only is it clean and in good condition, the rear main seal clearly was not leaking. The front seal on the timing cover wasn't leaking. Nothing's old and ratty. Everything looks fine. So that's another one of those life choices. I mean, all signs indicate that those seals are fine, but do you replace them anyways because you have them, but then you're just creating the possibility of creating a leak that wasn't there before? We could clean up our mating surface for our timing cover and reinstall it with a new gasket, but with cleaning those head bolts, all the old sealant off, that sucked up a lot of my time. I'm actually just flat out of time. I'm helping my daughter with a welding project this evening, so we got to wrap this up. But let's take the oil pan off and look at that crankshaft and see if we got a stroker here. Stroker ace. You know, I actually don't think I want to put the timing cover on right now anyways, because if this is not the stock crankshaft, if we've got a stroker here, then it would probably behoove of us if we verify what camshaft is in here. Now I remember from the previous video with this engine, when we had the pan off, I remember it was a GM crankshaft. Alright, the bolt is out. I'm writing the casting number down. 140-88526. I'm gonna go look this up. I got a piece of paper somewhere in a drawer with crankshaft casting numbers written down on it. So I'll see you in a couple seconds. Are you ready for the results? It's a stock crankshaft for a 350. So no strokage going on here. So we got a 350 bored 40 over. So we're in the 350, just say 355 to 358 for cubic inches here. We'll get it painted and we'll select an intake. Comment if you want what intake manifold we should put on here. We need to get an oil pan, and we'll button this thing up very soon with some fresh paint. And at the exact same time, I'm also still searching for the factory steel wheels for this car. Kind of having a hard time finding the right set without rusted out valve stem holes and all that kind of stuff, and without somebody wanting $10 million for them. And I am also pushing towards finally getting a trunk floor, and we could weld that in hopefully sometime very soon. Lots going on, but we got clean cylinders, we got heads installed. That's what we needed done. And I'm going to send you to watch the video where we first opened this engine up for the very first time. I'm going to send you to that to watch next. I appreciate you watching, subscribing, and sharing. La la bumba.